Hello everyone,
and welcome to Dad
and me love history.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history.
Today we're investigating what made the Spartans such great warriors.
Yes, we're going back around 2,500 years to the time when the ancient Greeks had control of parts of Spain, France and Italy, right over to Persia in West Asia and parts of North Africa. Now, although James knows a bit, I'm no expert on ancient Greece. In fact, my poor knowledge of ancient Greek stories has always been my Achilles elbow. Get your parents to explain that joke. So today, we will be joined by a special guest, Mark Selleck, expert podcaster on ancient Greece. Why is Greek food so fatty?
Greek.
Because of Greece!
Oh! So, it was a lot like the Roman Empire, but it was before the Roman Empire. The Greeks did it first.
Yeah, that Greek Empire came first and the Romans copied a lot of the ideas. But one thing we need to know about Greece is that it was not one country, it was many separate city-states. Think of that as city countries. So one city like Athens would rule over its own city and a bit of the countryside outside of the city. But then there'll be another city called Sparta, another one Olympia, another one Corinth. And they all had their own armies, they all chose their own leaders. And sometimes they fought against each other. But at other times, as we'll see today, they fought together, and that's when they were at their strongest. When they were fighting as allies, that means on the same side. So you have Athens, one city, joining up with Sparta and other Greek cities, fighting against an enemy.
The Greek was trying to figure out how long a day was. How long do you think it took him?
24 hours?
But after 24 hours, he called it a day.
Wow, we're delighted to be joined now by Mark Selleck, ancient Greece expert and host of the podcast series Casting Through Ancient Greece.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, James. Hello, Paul. How are you going?
Good, great to have you on board.
Mark, why did you become such an expert in ancient Greece?
Well, James, I've been interested in history for as long as I can remember. And I guess after doing my studies in various different time periods, I then picked up my first book on ancient Greece, which was the Histories by Herodotus. He's also known as the father of history. And from that point on, I was basically hooked on ancient Greece and haven't stopped since.
Cool. And today we're focusing on what made the Spartans the greatest warriors of the ancient world. So we're really zooming in on one of the Greek city-states especially, although we might mention some more. So kick us off, Mark. What do you think made the Spartans such great warriors?
So yeah, we begin from birth, where once a Spartan was born, he would be taken to be inspected by the elders. And if he was discovered to be sick or deformed anyway, the parents wouldn't be allowed to raise him.
So someone like me, I use a wheelchair to get around all the time. I wouldn't have been a great Spartan warrior. I wouldn't have been valued in that society. That's pretty clear.
Yeah, so the Spartan leaders, they were looking just for fit and healthy citizens because they wanted strong warriors. But once they had a fit and healthy baby, the next step was basically to go through an education system which would raise that child into a great warrior. And at the age of 7, Spartan boys, they would be taken from their homes and they would be raised with all the other boys that were taken from their homes. And within this group, the boys were taught that the group was more important to Sparta than each individual boy was. And Spartan girls were also given an education in Sparta. A great importance was placed on their health and fitness. And it was thought that they were much better with numbers and letters than their brothers. The boys, they'd also go through a number of stages as they grew up, which would focus heavily on competitions and challenges. And they also found the boys would also be fed not quite enough, but just enough to get by. And this would encourage them to steal what they needed to be satisfied with their hunger. And if they were caught stealing, they would be punished, but not for the act of stealing, for being caught in the act of stealing itself.
So kids were encouraged to steal?
They were, and this was mainly to promote their living off the land as they grew up. If they're going out on campaign, they would need to be able to forage from the land surrounding them, and this would allow them to survive in the wild much, much better.
My friend said I mock Greek names.
You mock Greek names? That's preposterolopolopoulos.
As the Spartans grew up into young men, their training then saw them take a more active role in the army itself, to where they'd now be sent to fight if they were needed. So once the young male Spartan had completed the agoge, he would now become an adult Spartan citizen, and this was also known as a Spartiate. Also, the upbringing saw the act of retreating or avoiding danger to save themselves as being dishonourable. If a Spartan ever did this, he would be an outcast in his own society and looked down upon by his fellow Spartans.
We love history. We love history, baby. We love history.
What did the ancient Greeks wear on their feet?
I don't know. What did the ancient Greeks wear on their feet?
Tennis, Zeus.
Tennis Zeus instead of tennis shoes.
Told you that one was a dad joke, man.
That is a dad joke. When did the ancient Greeks fight against the Persians?
Okay, so the Greeks and the Persians would fight each other in a conflict known as the Greek and Persian Wars. So the first Persian invasion of Greece would take place in 490 BC, over 2,500 years ago. And the city-states on the mainland of Greece, like Athens, would send ships to help fight the Persians. But eventually the Greeks would be defeated, and Persia, now having seen help come from Greece, sent out to get revenge. This would lead to the first Persian invasion of Greece, where the famous Battle of Marathon was fought, and where the inspiration for the marathon race would come from. A runner is said to have been sent from the battlefield back to Athens to announce the victory 40 kilometres away.
Yeah, so the Battle of Marathon happened about 40 kilometres from Athens, and that distance is the distance, roughly, that a marathon has run over today.
And interesting enough, the Spartans, who we're looking at as great warriors, they weren't involved in this fight at Marathon. The Athenians had sought help from the Spartans, but they were engaged in a religious festival. So as well as being great warriors, the Spartans were also known for being highly religious.
So the Spartans were not at the Battle of Marathon, not because they were too scared to fight, but because they were too scared of the gods. So they attended a religious festival to keep their gods happy.
Yep, that's right, James. The Persians, though, they would launch a second invasion, where Sparta would play a vital role for the Greek city-states. Yeah, this is the invasion that would see the Spartans' most famous battle, that of the Battle of Thermopylae, where the last stand of the 300 would occur.
So now we're getting to it. When we were just talking about Marathon a minute ago, if listeners stopped listening there, they would not have thought that the Spartans were such great warriors. but I think we're going to find out that they were. So this is the battle where only 300 Spartans would defend a narrow mountain pass, the only way to get through the mountain range, and they defended it against thousands of Persians.
Yeah, that's right. So the Battle of Thermopylae took place in a narrow pass between the sea and a mountain range, which is why the Spartans were able to hold out for so many days. The battle would come to represent the selfless sacrifice of a small group of Greeks in the face of an enormous Persian army of over 200,000 troops. They would halt the Persian advance for around 7 days, and in 3 days of fighting they would inflict many more losses on the Persians than they would suffer themselves, before eventually being overwhelmed. So once in the pass, the Spartan king Leonidas learnt the Persians were coming behind the Greeks. Leonidas would then order that all the Greek allies should leave the pass while the Spartans would stay behind. Another city-state refused to leave the Spartans, and they were known as the Thespians. So in the final stand, the Spartans would also be joined by the Thespians, and their sacrifice would see that the other Greeks would have enough time to get away from the pass before the Persians overran it. The Spartans would all be finally killed under a shower of arrows. Early in the battle, a Spartan soldier had heard the Persian archers were so numerous that the arrows would blot out the sun. He's then meant to have replied, "Good, we shall have our battle in the shade." This battle did not see the end of the Persian invasion of Greece, but it would inspire the Greeks to unite against the Persians and ultimately defeat them a year later at the Battle of Plataea.
Wow, so the Spartans were right at the heart of that battle, which they knew they were going to lose, just like in Rogue One, and that they were sacrificing themselves. And this is my favourite. This is the most dad one of them all.
No.
How many Greeks does it take to screw in a light bulb?
13.
Very close.
15.
Even closer. How many Greeks does it take to screw in a light bulb? Olive them.
Oh.
Greece is famous for its olives.
Oh.
Well, thank you so much for helping us to get to know the Spartans and the ancient Greek warriors better, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
No worries. Thank you, James. Thank you, Paul, for having me on.
It's been a pleasure. And you can check out, listener, Casting Through Ancient Greece through your podcast app and across social media. What was the most popular kids movie in ancient Greece?
Hercules?
Troy Story!
Oh!
That's almost it for today's show.
But don't forget the outtakes at the end.
First, here are some questions to see if you were listening.
Number 1. How many years ago were the Persian Wars with ancient Greece?
Number 2. Which empire came first? Ancient Romans or ancient Greeks?
Number 3. The ancient Greeks took over land in 3 different continents. Can you name those 3 continents?
Number 4. How far from Athens was the Battle of Marathon?
Number 5. Can you name at least 3 ancient Greek city-states?
Number 6. And the final one. Can you explain what city-state means?
So, James, what do you think made the Spartans such great warriors?
Well, they didn't give up, how they were fighting in those mountains. Even though they told them to go back, they were just fighting still.
Yeah, their resilience, their bravery, and the fact that they knew they were going to die didn't make them any less kind of willing to fight.
Well, that's about it from Dad and me.
And me.
Bye for now.
From Dad,
And me.
love history.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history.
Or we should do it as a double act. Which line do you want to read and I'll read the other line?
Okay, I'll read the first line. My friend said I mock Greek names.
You mock Greek names? That's preposterolopoulos.
Oh! Is that a Greek name?
Yeah, that kind of opulus is kind of common. Your mum and I in London taught a Greek kid called Joe. Yeah. What was the Greek kid called that we taught in London? Apostolus.
So should I laugh even if I don't find it funny?
Well,
Well, don't do like a ha ha ha.
yeah.
Do like a.
The Greek
Apostolus.
Apostolus.
I think so.
So,
Apostolus.
I think so.
right, I'm not sure if we keep that in or not. It's a bit mean laughing at his name. Okay, so for this joke, I'll prime you. This bit I'm saying now, we can just put in the outtakes. For this one, you need to know what a female horse is called. Otherwise, the joke will make no sense to you. Do either of you know what a female horse is? No. Mare, M-A-R-E. Don't know the spelling, but a mare is a female horse.
I thought it was a male horse.
Stallion's a male horse,
Yeah.
isn't it? What's that type of horse?
So, what breed of horse was the Trojan horse?
The mare horse.
Kind of. A nightmare.
Oh.
Oh, I get that.
Oh, and this one is kind of like doesn't have an answer, it's just a line.
But if it's really not funny, just go, oh my.
Yeah. And finally, here's my bonus tip of the day. If you want the chance to make Greek-style pottery at school, you'll have to earn it.
What?
I needed to explain to you earlier. An urn is a Greek vase.
Oh.
So I'll put in fake laughter.
I think it was the other way around.
Apostolus,
Okay.
Apostolus, apostolu.
Yeah, that's what I said. Apostolus apostolu.
First name and surname.
First name and surname.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought that.
I'll see if I can find him on Facebook in a minute.
The word politics is derived from two Greek words. What do the Greek words mean?
You tell me.
The first one is poly, meaning many, and ticks, meaning blood-sucking creatures.
Bye from now.
From- do that again.
Bye from. Bye for now.
From Dad,
And me.
love
Love
history.
history.